9 February 2024. A very good afternoon to you all and a warm welcome. Today's topic is Into the Ark, and as always, please like our videos, share and subscribe. Noah's Ark, fact or fiction? It's fact. The Russian-Ukraine war in Europe, where there's 500,000 casualties, is that a fact or fiction? It's fact. The Israeli-Gaza war in the Middle East, there's already something in the region of 30,000 plus civilians and soldiers killed. Fact or fiction? It's fact. South Africa has collapsed and we are in anarchy. Is it a fact or a fiction? It's fact. Let me hear your comments below. Good. Let's look at Noah's Ark. Noah lived for 950 years. Can you believe it? And he died 350 years after the flood. Is it a fact or a fiction? It's fact. Noah's Ark has been found and it lies east of Turkey on Mount Ararat. Fact or fiction? Fact. What was the main aim or the main message of Noah's Ark? Is to put your trust in God's plan and to remain faithful. And we need to discuss amongst ourselves, are we faithful on what's going on? Are we realistic to what's happening in South Africa? Why did God ask Noah to build the ark? Because of the people's wickedness. That's why Noah was tasked to build that ark, because of the wickedness of the people. And in South Africa, as we are at the moment, we can see the wickedness taking place, and it's a fact. The Lord declares that he will destroy all flesh from earth, and this is in Moses 8 and Genesis 6. You can go and read that. Now, if you read the word and you're connected, you're going to see a repeat and similarities between what's happening now in the Middle East and what's happening in South Africa or globally. Let's have a look how big the ark was compared to the Titanic. Titanic, you know, the ship that went down, it hit the so-called iceberg. Right, the dimensions of the ark are 450 feet by 75 feet by 45. And the Titanic was 850 feet by 92 feet by 64 feet. So the ark was a third of the size of the Titanic. So why do we need to get into the ark? Why do we need to join SBB, Suidland Burgerlike Beskerming? Now, if you just look at the last few days, I'm not talking about last year or the previous years and all the political events in South Africa or globally, just in South Africa and just maybe one or two issues outside the country, is the political leaders, what they've been saying of late, which I'm going to go into detail shortly. And I want you, now that I'm on that, I want you to recall my last video where I spoke about history repeating itself and to compare those comparisons of what happened during the Gaan Piet Retief massacre and what's happening today. Now, just to remind you about the last video that went out, is there were warnings given to Piet Retief that was ignored. People told Piet Retief not to negotiate and not to go to Gaan's place because something is not right, but it was ignored. Those warnings were ignored, just like the warnings are being ignored by yourselves today in South Africa. Now, if you look at the Constitution, as I've mentioned to you before, the agreement that was signed in 1994, and you compare that with the session of Natal that was signed between Gaan and Piet Retief with witnesses, it came to nothing. Now, similarly, this is where we are sitting today, that the piece of paper meant nothing, and Gaan instructed his forces to bring back all the possessions that the voortrekkers had during the massacre of Wien. And it's the same happening now at the moment. If you draw your columns that I've mentioned to you before in previous videos, if you draw up your facts and make your deductions about what happened back in Piet Retief days in 1838, and you compare it now with 1994, it's exactly the same. They want your land, they want your farms, they want your businesses through BE and through other forms of equity contracts between government and private business. Right, internationally, I want us to quickly look at the International Court of Justice, where South Africa brought the case against Israel. I want to mention and place on record that Israel has the right to defend itself or herself. Hamas are terrorists, and the Palestinian people have become Hamas's collateral damage. So Hamas has used their people, and their people are suffering. Same situation is happening in South Africa, where the ANC are using the black masses for their personal wealth and gain. And that's why we have a problem. The methodologies between the ANC and the Hamas are very similar, and that's why there's support and synergy between these two governing bodies. The white minority in South Africa have the right to protect themselves. That's you. And however, if you look at how the Israelis are being treated at the moment by the whole world, you are ourselves, the minority, are going to be treated exactly the same way in times of anarchy and thereafter. Of course, you can see the similarities taking place just between Israel and Gaza and what's happening here in South Africa. Now, if we look at the latest political leaders and what they've been saying of late, we have here Malema said on the 7th of February this year, 2024, addressing his supporters. He says there that the whites irritate him. The way the whites walk. They walk with their shoulders back while the blacks look apologetic. They lean forward and their hands behind their back looking pathetic. Now, can you see there's a racial hatred that's being promoted and stirring up the black masses on this point? Then Malema clearly shows on a public platform that he is a racist by his claims, and not the whites. His eyes show evil. Malema's eyes show hatred. His words show evil. And Malema has the same evil spirit. Now, you'll know what I'm talking about. That's why I'm mentioning it and putting it on record. Malema's evil spirit is the same that's what's in Hamas. And it's the same what's in Karel Nias's character, as we've seen there at Groblersdal the last 2-3 days, which I'll touch on now shortly. There's no law and there's no authorities acting against Malema. And that's going to be the same in times of anarchy. If the law doesn't act now, they're not going to act later. They cannot. They don't have vehicles, they don't have cell phones, they don't have fuel, and there's just no will to enforce law and order as per our constitution. So again, that constitution, just like the seed of Natal, has been ignored. Now, Malema's actions, I must say, carry approval by the judicial system, and that's why he's getting away with what he is doing on public platform. Is this a fact or a fiction? Let me hear your comments below. I'm saying it's fact. Fight for the land and must come to its rightful owners. That's what Malema is saying on his latest spree, and that the youth must take the future into their hands. And that's a fact. That's what he's saying continually. Malema is a sick political leader and has caused so much bloodshed and loss of life in South Africa that it is not going to be, and it will not be accepted by the minority groups going down the road. So this needs to be taken into consideration when you make your deductions. And this is why I say you'll need to get into the ARC. You're going to need to join SBB. Let's look at Zuma's MK party in a short space of time. It's been amazing what Jacob Zuma has put together for his own benefit and his party. Millions have already joined the MK party, and they will all vote. They will all vote at the national elections. Excuse me. So if you look at how many members have joined the MK, we're probably looking at well into 10 million. I know a few weeks back we were standing at 4 million, but we're close to 10 million, as I've heard. I haven't got that confirmed, but it's more than what the minority totals are in this country, which is 4.6 million. So you can do the maths there. So your vote is basically worthless if you look just at what MK has achieved in the last few weeks. Now, if you look here, what Zuma had got right when he was deputy with Thabo Mbeki, and the comeback he made when he was dismissed. Now, Jacob Zuma is using the same tactics here on Ramaphosa and the ANC. And Zuma is very shrewd, smart, and I say he's dangerous. If we look at the MK elections being promoted and advertised, we see here that the MK say that they will take the land back. They're not asking for it. Take note, MK will be taking the land back. They'll not be asking for it. And the land must go back to its rightful owners. Now we know in previous YouTube videos that's been sent by various groups who the land actually belongs to. It definitely doesn't belong to the ANC or the EFF as they are promoting. I think that's worth a video on its own going down the road. Now what Zuma is doing here, he's also singing the struggle song Umshini Wani Mawani has come back to haunt the leadership of the ANC. That's been sung regularly. He's accused the president of the ANC and of the country of being proxy for white monopoly capital. White monopoly capital means the whites that are running the business. Your business that you have, that you're making and working hard for, is at risk. MK, this is what Zuma is saying, that MK was a guerrilla army for the ANC. Zuma said that he would address the country's problems as MK. Now do your maths, make your deductions. Can you see why you need to get into the ark? Zuma is against all forms of white monopoly capital, and he is for racial economical transformation of South Africa, radical economic transformation of South Africa. Again, it's obvious that you need to get in the ark. You need to join SBB. Now let's go and look at Karel Niehaus' behavior. He obviously, we know he's with the FF now. In Groblersdal on the 7th of February of 2024, he speaks as if he is the judge. Take note, he speaks as if he's the judge. Then we see here further that he is calling that the Boers are racist, and he has double standards. And I can see here with the SABC, they allow him to make this public speech to stir up hatred between whites and blacks. And of course, what's interesting is about Karel Niehaus is that he doesn't talk about Malema's 10th anniversary shoot to kill. Malema is not a racist in Karel Niehaus' eyes, but those two people in court in Groblersdal, those two farmers, they're racist. Can you see the double standards with Karel Niehaus? I think he's badly messed up. He's badly messed up. Let me hear your comments below. Then Karel Niehaus talks about free democratic South Africa. What nonsense. It's ridiculous. He talks about white supremacy. It's got nothing to do with white supremacy. The white supremacy he's talking about, where we come from, it's our standards, it's our norms and values. It's got nothing to do with white supremacy. We just don't tolerate this nonsense, and we're not going to tolerate this nonsense. And the minority group will not tolerate this nonsense. They're not going to tolerate corruption and this sort of treatment and abuse to the minority groups much further. So we have a problem. This is why you need to get into the ark. You're going to need to join SBB. Right, again, he talks about the Boers being racist. I've covered that. And right, the next thing is Karel Niehaus issues a warning that racism will not be tolerated. And he makes reference to Oranje. And I think I've got a surprise for him. The Boers aren't going to take much of this nonsense from Karel Niehaus much further. This is what I can pick up in the newspapers and on YouTube and various media outlets. The SA law, again, I've just brought this in here, has double standards because it is captured by the legal office bearers and the political elite. So in other words, the EFF can say what they want. They even have that judge called John Glope. You can go read his history. So this is why Karel Niehaus and Malema can say and do what they want, and the rest must suffer. General red lights issues that I want to put on record is the national health insurance is a total disaster. It's on its way. So those of you that have got medical aids with Discovery or whatever, it's not going to last. It's going to run out, run dry. All these private hospitals are going to become government hospitals. We know that electricity has collapsed. Load shedding is worse. It's not going to recover in the near future. Following this, water has collapsed. All our municipalities are broke. And just quickly, I see I made a little note. The political leaders in Africa, let's just look here. Kagame, this is now the president of Rwanda. He started the genocide in Rwanda. President Kagame. Mugabe started genocide in Zimbabwe along with the President Mnangagwa. These are facts. Remember, a couple 100,000 Ndebelés were killed for Mugabe to get into power. So these are things you need to think about coming up to the elections and thereafter, is that We have the three parties, the three main parties, the ANC, then we've got the EFF, the MK, the Eshma guys, and supporters, and you've got the DA and their coalition. So that's what's lying up front, is coalition parties, and we know that coalition is not working. So this brings me to the decision time. We have to make decisions. We have to stop being ignorant. It's time to get in the ark. You've seen what happened in Israel. You know the histories of the genocide in Africa, and you know that our constitution is a farce. Excuse me, a farce. And the session of Natal between Dangana Pete was a warning, and we need to see that warning in today, in the very present. Note that your belongings that you have are worthless, with the slogans with the MK and with the FF and with the ANC, take the land and the end of white monopoly capital. They're going to take all your stuff. So it's time to get the ark. It's time to join SBB, and you must have an action plan, a solution, and I've shared that with you. There isn't a plan, a solution that you can have on your own or in a small community. You're going to have to join in numbers, and that's why you'll need to join the likes of us, SBB. We have a national security initiative that kicks in place when all anarchy breaks out and the state can no longer look after and care for your safety. Follow our links below to join, and thank you very much, and I'll talk to you again soon. Take care. Bye.